David Cameron was wrong when he was PM. He said nobody could have predicted the effects of recession. It was actually taught on the BTEC HNC in Building Studies. In 2002, our lecturer walked in and gave the most damning and horrific prophecy. It was delivered grey-faced, and I was absolutely ripped by it. I mean, I could not believe what I was hearing. I always thought that governments were protective of their populaces and their taxpayers, but it would appear not. They were protecting the banks and the oligarchy. If in the first wave of the recession the bankers were bailed out willy-nilly without caveats placed in to curb their oversale of debt, it would lead to a second wave of recession and a housing crisis on unprecedented proportions. Every boom in the past led to a bust, and this was going to be the worst ever. So we were heading into the 21st century with human rights which were going to be failed, with a housing crisis on unprecedented proportions, with poverty, child poverty, adult poverty, fuel poverty, and without any money left in the kitty for that. And this was going to be especially true if it was a Conservative government in power at the time, especially of the second wave of the recession, which is where we are now. In 2019, the stock market was rocking and 2 banks were failing, and then we had the pandemic. It was predicted that it wouldn't just be tanks and guns, it would be nukes potentially and bio-warfare. On top of that, simultaneously, all the world governments that did care would be hit with tsunami waves, flood risk, storms, damages, tidal surges, etc. So people needed to have an ethical solution to the problems that we knew that they would face today. That led to colour-coded presentations, which also tie in with political standing and what is central to the change, because those in power need to work with the people, with social enterprises, non-profit organisations, in order to wheel out the solutions which are viable and seen working on a global scale, with the Global Eco-Village Network, GEN, paving the way forwards for other communities to build likewise on community land trusts on exemption and exception sites for those who are in crisis, especially those who never were covered by the welfare state anyway. We were looking at local authorities potentially saving millions through our proposals and taxpayers billions. The amount of people I've asked and have networked with who don't want to be forced to claim housing benefits and welfare state benefits anyway, just want to get on with working and living our lives, living in eco-village type communities, is the resolve that so many of us are looking for today. To heal the land whilst living on it and heal ourselves in the nature of that land simultaneously. We were going to broadcast as the Eco-Village Network UK as a mobile unit, and we're still networked today to do something very similar with eco-festivals and eco-conferences, showing the government's community right to build and up to Teaching Standards Build Code Level 6+. Temporary and floating eco-homes and eco-village type communities in flood risk zones would solve the housing crisis practically overnight.